Okay, guys, huge apologies to those of you who joined me already. I have actually gone ahead and posted take one. So, sorry about it. But you know what? We hate to start the evening with an apology. So let me start it again with a huge big welcome to not just the LonePack, but their representative and my very dear friend, Samiya Nasim, who pretty much has a lot in common with me right now as we are both headed towards the Wharton School in the fall. But without further ado and wasting any more time with an intro, I'm just going to wait for you all to join as we get started. I'm going to go ahead and get her. Rock and roll. Ah, gosh, the internet. But no, but I'm pretty. Hey!
Hi.
Good to see you. I'm just going to blame the fact that you're in Bangalore on the fact that all this has happened. You know, anything but put the blame on Nama Chennai, right? But obviously not. But super to see you, Samiya. I have missed you deeply and terribly since you have left me and gone far, far away. But not for too long, not for too long. So I do have the first few minutes of what I kind of introed about. But for those who are joining us right now, I'm just going to really quickly say that this is my first Wharton collaboration with somebody who shares all of my value system so deeply and is so incredibly accomplished. So I want to introduce everybody to my dear friend, Samiya Nasim, who is also the co-founder of the LonePack. And I will now hand over the stage to your fabulousness so you can tell everybody what it is, who you are, what you do, and everything, because I'll just give everything away. So you need to take over right now.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Samya. I see a few of my friends down there in the comments. So, hey, guys. Just to give everyone a little bit of background about myself, I am the co-founder of LonePack, which is a non-profit that works on youth mental health in India. And actually, we started LonePack right after college in 2016. So it's almost 5 years now. And I'm a computer science engineer by background, not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, no professional background in this space, but it's just something I'm very passionate about. And so started LonePack in 2016. And, side by side with my regular day job, I was working in consulting, by the way. I've been sort of growing LonePack along with my team over the last almost 5 years now. And really excited to be doing this with you, Anjali. I think, like you said, first Wharton collab, and really nice to meet such a lovely friend in Chennai, like you said, right in our backyard.
I know. In fact, I was sharing a story with a friend earlier saying, somebody from our upcoming class. So I said that, I was doing this and that I had to rush off because I had to get ready for my next date with my new Wharton colleague. So she was just like, what is the Insta Live about? So I was just telling her the genesis behind, us planning to blow things up in Chennai, given that LonePack has been around for 5 years and a lot more people need to hear about it. So while I was telling you that, I told you that the first question I asked you was like, hey, where are you from? And you said Chennai, and I almost jumped out of my skin. I was like, you're here in caps, guys. I said this in caps. You are here. And it was unbelievable. So she was actually my first visitor after a year and a half. So I was like seeing another human being. And she brought me chocolates, but that's another story for another day. So Samia, I would love to get into, a kind of, my question is always the why behind why someone as impassioned as you, as accomplished as you, as busy. I mean, college students are busy and then moving into consulting with a big firm like the one you're with right now and having the kind of life that you do. Most people would not have time, or rather, shall we say, find time to do something and pursue something like this. So the why is always hugely a compelling reason. So if you could just take us into that and then, we'll roll from there.
Yeah, I think, when I was growing up, mental health to me was, an alien topic. And all representations of mental health in media, in films, was quite biased and very skewed in a way. You would think of, I think, Salman Khan in that movie, I think, Tere Naam or whatever, I think, if I'm remembering that correctly. Like, it's a very skewed and very biased perspective, and there's a lot of
I must add that to my watch list. I must. It has a very good song.
Yes, I think so. But yeah, like I said, I did not have a very good understanding of mental health when I was growing up. I was no exception. But I think as I grew older, I, like many others around me, had, a lot of interpersonal struggles in school, in college, growing up. Especially I think in your teens, right? You're trying to find your independence. You're establishing your relationship with your parents. You're trying to figure out your career and all of that. And it's a very confusing time. And not to forget that we always want to seem cool as well, right? We need to fit in. We need to belong with our peer group. And I think I struggled with that a lot, and that had an impact on my mental health as well. But I didn't really know what to call it. I didn't really know that what I'm feeling right now is actually, what mental health is about, and which is why mental health is important. And I think the wake-up call for me was when a close friend of mine lost her life to suicide. And that was a big shock for me and really kind of woke me up very abruptly and realized that I needed to take my own mental health a lot more seriously. And I think where I got very, very lucky, and I need to acknowledge my privilege here, is that I was blessed with parents who were supportive enough to encourage me to seek professional help, who, at least try to broach the topic with me in their stumbling, awkward ways, but they tried, and they let me know that it was okay for me to talk to them about certain things, that, or else, we could seek professional help. And that's when I actually understood, or, gained a more sensitized understanding of the topic itself. And that is when I realized how many people around me could potentially be suffering in silence without support systems, without access to professional help, without supportive family and friends around them, and just how much of an impact it would be having on their quality of life. Because even though I had so many, support systems and access to resources that many people don't have, I was really struggling, right? And I just could not even start to imagine what other people would be going through without any of that. And so that's where LonePack was born. LonePack, the name itself, me and my two other co-founders, we were sitting in a free period one day and we were talking about mental health. And I think the core genesis of LonePack is the idea that you're not alone. When we're going through a certain period where we're feeling low, we feel so isolated and alone that it's very unlikely that we think, oh, nobody else understands what we're talking about, nobody else can get what we're going through. But I think LonePack wants to build a community of people who feel that way and show them that someone somewhere out there feels the same way as you do, and that we're here for you, and it's a safe space and it's a community. And so that's the why of LonePack, and that's also, the genesis or the beginning of that idea as well.
No, that's amazing. So your two other co-founders were your classmates or college mates? I mean, could you tell us a little bit? I would love to hear who they are, and because it must be quite a journey, right? To be college mates and then to really see something. Because what I must say here is I see a lot of people interested in mental health, but lack the planning, consistency, and over and above everything, the execution and staying power. Because if you could just in your next part take us through what starting it was like, and maybe some of the pushbacks that you saw, because it's not easy to get something like this off the ground, and that to stay the course, as you would call it. So
yeah, sure. So I think, I'll start off with the first part of your question, which was about, my co-founders. And honestly, they've been the biggest, the best partners I could have asked for on this journey. So my co-founders are two of my best friends from college, Naveen and Siddharth. And we're actually best friends from college. And we started doing like group projects together, a couple of different assignments together. And that's sort of how we started working together. And then slowly that became a really true and tested friendship. And I think when I was struggling with my own mental health, right, they were huge support systems to me, helping me ensure that I was managing academically in college, and I wasn't getting left behind, etc. And so they were a big, big factor in how I sort of got through that phase, in a way. And I think they are also incredibly passionate about the topic for, their own reasons. And all three of us are computer science engineers, but we're driven by the need to actually use that technology or that learning to make a real impact, in terms of society, in giving back to society. And that was something that tied all of us together. And And one thing that was very lucky for us is that all of us have very complementary working styles. So that's,
Really?
I think that's been the secret of us working together for so many years, and still being friends, you know. They say
Yeah.
don't mix business and friendship, but I think the biggest thing is that we respect each other and we have really complementary working styles. Like I tend to, you know, think big and very ambitious, and you know, I sometimes tend to lose track of the ground reality. Siddharth is very good at keeping me on track with the ground reality. And Naveen is our most dependable soldier who handles our entire tech side. And he's the one who, you know, translates all of our vision into execution. So it's a really well, you know, complementary pieces that just came together at the right time to start LonePack. And I think, you know, as we started off, you know, coming to the next part of your question in terms of challenges, I think there were two main challenges that we had. The first was considering that we did not have a professional background in this field, how do we build credibility, right? So we reached out to a lot of different organizations and, you know, potential partners and professionals, but it was hard to find partners who believed in us and believed in our mission just as much as we did, right? And I think that's very important when you're starting off, to find partners who believe in you, who believe in your mission, to you know, leverage technology to make mental health care accessible. And I think it was a lot of trial and error, but I think we just stayed true to our guns. And we knew that our personal experiences with mental health and our interactions with our peers were guiding our decision path. So even though what we were trying to do may be slightly different from what had previously been done, we still believed that we were on the right track. So I think it was important for us to have confidence that we were approaching the problem from, I guess, the right direction, but also being open to gaining and leveraging the wisdom of other experts in this field who had been in, you know, who've been working in this field for, you know, many, many years. So I think that was the first challenge. And the second was, you know, building a team. As a nonprofit that's completely volunteer run, there are no financial remunerations, there's no, you know, big name brand over there. We were just starting out. But I think, you know, in the beginning we struggled because a lot of times, like you said, a lot of people are interested in mental health. But then can they commit to it? Can they help us execute it? You know, is it just an idea or are they going to see it through? And I think in the beginning we definitely had a lot of churn, you know, trying to figure that out. But I think we eventually were able to find some absolute gems who are so passionate about LonePack and have helped us grow LonePack and have also grown with us personally while working with us at LonePack. Like, for example, one of our oldest team members who heads our content team, Vasu, she was a college junior when we started LonePack, and she's now doing her master's in the US, and she still continues to lead, you know, a 10-member content team despite being across time zones while doing her master's. And she just got accepted into the PhD, by the way. So I'm
Oh
just
my
bragging
God,
about
congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow, that's huge. Can you imagine? I mean, most people would, you know, be like, okay, I've done my thing and thanks, but gotta move on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sitting in the US, studying and doing content for a 10-minute, amazing, amazing. Huge shout out to you. And I really hope, you know, we get to meet her in the US, hopefully in the future when we arrive there. But that's
Absolutely
fantastic. So it really does take a lot of searching, but it's worth the search. So you feel like you've really invested in people, and that's what mental health even is all about, because you don't get that search. You don't get it right the whole time. I mean, one is accepting that you need professional help and then finding the right kind of professional help. So how have you guys navigated or mapped that journey as to what LonePack actually does? So could you take us through what it is, because my understanding is it's awareness, but if you could just kind of specifically talk about what specifically you guys do.
Yep, sure. So when we started LonePack, right, there were a few different elements that we wanted to focus on. One thing that we were very clear about is that we did not see LonePack as a replacement to professional help. We completely acknowledge the importance of professional help, and, you know, even though we have people with lived experiences with mental health, we cannot replace professional help, right? Sure. So that was something that we were very clear about right at the beginning. But we still felt that there's a big gap that needs to be bridged between professional health and the general public, and that's where we wanted to come in. So in terms of what we wanted to do, the first is we wanted to create awareness, to start dialogue, start conversations. And that meant doing workshops, events in colleges, in institutions. So we've done it, a lot of events in and around South India, VIT, SRM, CMC Vellore, a couple in Bangalore as well. So a lot of events, workshops in colleges in the area. And a lot of people tell us, oh, this is the first time someone is actually having a conversation with us about mental health. And, that just goes to show how important this first step is. You cannot skip this first step, even though it's very,
Right.
I would say obvious, you can't skip it. And so we also designed a lot of campaigns for the average public, just outside to just talk about mental well-being in like, a supportive way. And so we had a couple of like our on-ground awareness campaigns as well that we called LonePack letters. We had anonymous letters go from one stranger to another with the aim of bringing a smile to their face. And
Really?
the idea was, that, hey, if this anonymous letter from a stranger made you smile, then spread that smile a little bit further in your own peer group and in your own friend circle. And that was something that was received so well, and we had an amazing response. And we did 3 editions of it, and we reached almost 60,000 people.
That is a gigantic number. Did you partner with anybody in this process? Can you take us through that? Or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we partnered with a lot of different organizations, so many colleges, so many schools across India, not just in Chennai. So we did Chennai, we did Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Kolkata as well. So we had a lot of different partnerships that we had. And some of our big wins there was we actually also partnered with corporates. So we did partnerships with Google and with Uber Eats and Uber as well. So I think that was really important in, giving us a little bit of confidence that we are on the right track. If brands like this are willing to partner with us for our campaign, then we're doing something right. So that was a big confidence boost for us.
Absolutely. And, once you have those names behind you, because it is hard, to break through that door and, kind of get taken seriously, because on the other side, when, and from a corporate perspective, we as corporates see a lot of young people with a lot of dreams who don't do the follow through when the corporate, when we hand over the money. So, so there's 2 sides to the coin. And I think you guys have done an amazing job in breaking through and using your skill sets in a way that truly does make the world a better place, which is very reminiscent of what I follow in Satya Nadella, actually, and his entire logic behind, Microsoft and making it the way it is. So, that's unbelievable. So if you could just take us through, maybe your biggest win and perhaps your biggest, I don't want to use the word failure, but maybe your biggest learning. If you could, because with somebody so young, and with such young colleagues and, sticking it out for 5 years, here we can't even handle a relationship for more than 5 minutes. Forget a commitment for 5 years. So, I just want to speak to my followers who all tend to agree with me on this point. It's really hard to stick to something. So could you take me through that? That would be great.
I think in terms of our biggest win, I think it's just the impact that we've been able to create in our community. When we started off 5 years ago, people wouldn't even share statuses about mental health. They would message us on DM and be like, hey, I like this article, but I don't want to reshare it because I don't want people to think like I'm going a little crazy, or, this was the kind of fear and stigma. And I think, I would like to think that we have played, a small part in helping this conversation come out into the open. And I think we have so many, young people messaging our page occasionally who reach out to us on various different forums or at the events that we do, who just tell us that it meant a lot to be able to hear a conversation in public about this topic and know that it's okay to talk about it, that there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't make them weak. There's nothing that is, that they should be ashamed of. And I think that's our biggest win, just, making an impact even in one life. And I'd like to think we've made an impact in more than one. So that would be our biggest win.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
And in terms of our biggest, I would say, learning in MBA terms and jargon, I think our biggest learning was how to build a team. Because when we started off LonePack, right, as people who started it, it was our baby, and we were very, very, we really cared about LonePack, and we wanted it to do really well. But at the same time, we knew we could not do it all alone, right? We needed to build a team. And when we had people on board, initially we would find people who were fantastic resumes, fantastic, backgrounds and applications. And we would get really excited and we would start working with them. And then we realized that we somewhere got left behind in their other plans. There was no follow through from them. And so it was a learning for us to separate the aptitude from the commitment. And we realized that commitment is more important. Commitment to the cause, right? Because since it's a volunteer-run team, if we're doing an 8-hour, 9-hour shift at our regular job, it takes energy to come back, wash our faces, sit back down and get back to work on something else, right? Because you just want to chill, watch Netflix, relax, go out with your friends. But to actually be able to commit to something that you have no tangible benefits from, financially or otherwise, that just takes commitment. And that was, I think, our biggest learning in how to build an organization and a team that would be sustainable, that would go beyond just us who started it. And we want to leave it as, something that becomes a legacy eventually, if I'm being way too ambitious. I told you I'm the ambitious one. But I would eventually like to see LonePack, just as a legacy that has people continuing to grow year after year and just, spreading out.
Right. So, so for me, like from my point of view, I've had my own journey with trauma and kind of, having had, for my followers who know me and for those who don't know me, I had a very big car accident when I was 18 and then and then was actually given a new face over a 2-year time period of repeated surgeries, and then, had to embrace a whole new identity, including visual disability and etc. So while I think my journey was very visceral in terms of physically overcoming the challenges, there was a whole lot of mental health and support because I got rehabilitated in the US. So, which was given to me as a rule. I wouldn't have gone and found a therapist out of choice because I was like, I'm too busy rebuilding my life, and thanks for the face because it doesn't look like me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not to be cavalier about something serious, but it was an issue, right? So I was like, you want me to go and attend therapy with other people whose problems don't sound as big as mine? But actually, I think that the fact that it was ingrained into the system as a rule, because they were like, you cannot undergo something this big without mental support. Do you, and I think that, something that big doesn't necessarily have to happen for everybody to talk about mental health, because I think we're all sort of experiencing stress in the same way. So if I were to say, living in Chennai, and if I was somebody who was hearing about LonePack for the first time today, say on this Insta Live, what would be the different resources I would have access to? And what would I be able to use? And how best would I be able to benefit from it? One, as a user, and then maybe later you can take us through perhaps as a volunteer.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question, right? Because I think awareness is a great start, but it needs to translate into access to actual resources and support at some point, right? So in terms of how we actually, in terms of how we actually try to help or, be of help to our audiences, I would split it into 3 ways. So the first would be just access to reliable information, right? When you Google things, there are 100 things just thrown out at you, but we take a lot of effort to filter through all of that information, curate that in a blog in an easily understandable format that you can find on our website, on our social media, access to very reliable information. So that's the first, right, which is knowledge. The second is access to immediate support. So very, very recently, we launched our mental health peer support app, which is called LonePack Buddy. And it's completely free, totally free, anonymous, and ideally it's available whenever you need support. So you just log in and you're matched with a trained volunteer and you can talk to them about anything that's on your mind and see if that makes you feel better. And we think of LonePack Buddy as almost mental health first aid, in a way, because we're not replacing professional care, but we're sort of providing temporary support that will help them at that immediate moment. And this sort of helps us transition to the third thing that we do, which is bridge the path towards professional care. So what we have is a verified database of mental health professionals, as well as information such as what are their typical rates that they charge, what are the medians that they offer their services on, what are the languages that they're comfortable conducting sessions in, what issues they're comfortable dealing with, what are their qualifications. Like basically almost like the perfect way for you to filter out options for you to see who would be a good fit for you. And so what we do is we guide people or nudge them towards professional help as well. So we answer questions because a lot of people have misconceptions about professional help. Am I going to be drugged without my consent? Am I going to be, is there going to be confidentiality issues with my parents, etc.? And so we help them get the right answers to those questions, as well as we direct them to a database of verified mental health professionals where they can then take it forward. So we kind of see ourselves as a pipeline, right? So we start off with just starting the conversation, then we give them reliable information. If they need support at that point of time, we give them mental health first aid. And then if they need more sustained support, we direct them towards professional help.
No, that's fantastic because, it's kind of like a first responder mechanism, to a mental health issue. So, for example, if I was someone who was contemplating suicide and, you don't know how seriously to take, because people do use these terms loosely, but you can't take a risk. You'd rather be, respond with more caution than a risk not responding or saying, oh, parvale, more basic. I know you're comfortable with Tamil, and a lot of my followers keep asking me to speak in Tamil, so I keep proving that I can. But so Sunil, while I know we had kept comments to the end, but I do want to include Sunil in the conversation because he's been watching from the beginning, and he is the head of an LGBTQIA support system called Sahodharan, which was started way back in the 90s. So his point to the fact that you verify these professionals is extremely important, because half the time, I've seen all ends of the spectrum, because I came back from the US in 2013 and re-entered a space where, while I may or may not have needed, mental health support at every single point in time, I would have liked to have known that I had access to it. So that's seri Tamil pesla problem illa. So that is that. I can do it. But I have seen people actually erase their browser history while using a computer that was not theirs, while, sort of looking up things like this. So that level of fear I remember attending a support group once where I saw people getting off their autos one street away and walking. And then I realized, while I have the privilege of getting dropped by, say, a driver, I realized that, my driver also can make a comment about it. And then I found myself worrying about whether he would talk to another driver and say that, na madam inga edutittu pona. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she's not stable. Edo ungalku idu mari irukku.
Endha issue irukuna adukaprom enakku kavala. And then I found myself thinking twice about, ayyo ponuma povandama yaru pesava. And then, I decided, and as us Wharton women, I think, will unite and say we don't really give too much of a shit about what other people think. But, it's a privilege to not be able to care about what other people think.
Absolutely.
Right? So, so if you can speak to that, what have you experienced in the people that you've been able to help? And would you say that there are still people who drop off along the way because, konja bayama irukku vanda enakku, I don't want to give you my name, or, I know that it's an anonymous app and stuff like that, but what about if you could shed some light on what since 5 years is a good amount of time to have collected data, so to speak. So is there still a fear, or have you seen a shift?
So to be honest, LonePack Buddy itself as a service just launched last year. So in terms of direct support or mental health first aid, as we like to think of it, we've only started offering services last year, and that's because it took a lot of time for us to actually build the mechanism and the platform for us to, train the volunteers the right way, to ensure that we had the tech platform to do this the right way, etc. And so in the last year, however, there have definitely been learnings for us. And one is that I think we severely underestimated how, what are the challenges that the regular youth have while trying to access mental health, professional mental health care and support. It's not just, the stigma. It's, things like, I don't have the finances. I'm in college. I'm in pocket money, and I can't ask my parents for more money. If I ask my parents for more money, they will ask me, have we not done enough to provide for you?
Yes.
Where have we gone wrong? And it just adds to the guilt, and it just becomes like a vicious circle. And, apart from that, it's challenges. You have school counselors and college counselors. They have the office right next to the admin center, right? So every time we talk to schools and colleges about mental health, they're like, oh, we have a counselor on premises. But the number of people who are actually comfortable reaching out and accessing that resource is very few because of, the ground reality of how it has been executed, right? And so a lot of different challenges we've sort of seen, observed, and experienced firsthand as well. And that's why when we created LonePack Buddy and we designed it, it was on three, pillars that are fixed for us, that are core to LonePack Buddy itself. And the first is, reliability. The people who are on the platform, can you rely on them? Are the volunteers the right people to be on there? Because we never want to accidentally do more harm than good. That's not acceptable to us, especially when people reach out to us in a vulnerable situation, right? So it's very, very important that it's a reliable space for everybody who joins. The second for us is anonymity. Privacy is a big, big challenge. So we just try to ensure that we're there to support them, just, keep them online, keep them talking to us, just distract them if they're unwilling to seek, immediate professional help or call a crisis helpline. So we just try to at least be there for them as, just a patient ear, someone to talk to, someone to vent to, completely anonymous. And the third for us is accessibility. This is something that we spoke about, right? And that's why we're very, very certain that we don't ever want to make LonePack Buddy a paid-for service, right? Especially in college, many of us don't even have cards to make online payments that our parents don't have access to, right? Our statements are monitored by our parents. So we are very, very sure that we want to make it something that is completely accessible to all. And of course, we still have a long way to go in continuing to improve these features and continuing to develop LonePack Buddy further. But we're really certain that these core features of LonePack itself, of LonePack Buddy, will not change across, even as time goes by.
No, I think that's fantastic. The fact that you guys have the technical know-how, because at the end of the day, to translate this into an app which is, Android accessible, and I hope it becomes iOS accessible very, very soon. This is a shout out to both your co-founders. Okay. Yeah. I need access to this, but I'm not going to change my phone. So it's, I love you guys, but I completely think that having, which is really beautiful to see, science have empathy, because I've always felt like, and I'm also because I will call myself an older millennial. So I've always, when I met you, before I met you, I met our other classmate who was an IIT gold medalist type. And I immediately told him which school he was from. Okay. So I was like, you're either PSBB or Vidya Mandir. So he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you have to be, right? And, and he was laughing. And I was like, you're way too charming to be from either of those schools. But if you look at how deeply ingrained, so you have these cool degrees and the cool schools, and then you have the nerdy ones. And then, there's this bifurcation, but you need, sorry to use this term loosely, and because I'm not a professional mental health person, I can say so. It's just you need the nerves to build the stuff. So, talking is not enough and building is not enough. And we really all just need to come together to be able to bring all these chops together. Because one is, while you need, a listening and empathetic ear, you need somebody who's able to use that kind of language. Because I, when I did my first TED Talk, where I did my TED Talk just purely to share my story, to bust a myth about disability, and also to tell myself that it's okay. Because when did I lost my vision in 2002. I openly talked about it in 2019. So
It
this
takes courage.
is
It's a journey. Yeah.
it really is. And I remember in my when I first applied when I was applying to undergraduate, even though I did that straight out of the hospital, I actually did not tick, do you have a disability? Neither did I tick do not want to say. I just skipped it like it didn't exist. Then in my master's program, I went ahead and ticked it and actually went to disability services and said, and it was like I was hiding from someone. This is in New York, okay? Nobody knows me. Nobody knew me there, but I was hiding from me. So,
Yeah.
so if for me, it was a physical, so I couldn't even tell somebody that I was visually impaired because I was scared that they would think I was less capable. So I can't even imagine what somebody with a mental concern is of, because they'll say, you paithu puchirke, your parents will say, "Voranga poi padi." Voranga parchifying and having a mental concern, not forget problem. It could just be a concern, are two very, very different things. And the two can
Absolutely.
and now that I feel secure and well established and successful to some degree, I feel like, yes, I can talk about it. But if you take me 10 years ago, I wouldn't even be on this live. Forget hosting it. I'd be like, wait, I have, those are other people. But this whole notion of looking like you don't have problems is just, I think it's overdone, overhyped, and it's something that the families tend to protect like prestige. So how do you think, I mean, how does LonePack embrace not just the person that comes searching for help, but how can you embrace the family maybe overall? Is that something that you do or intend to do, or something that you've thought about in the future? Because I will tell you, as an Indian, as an Indian in Chennai, like I come with, I don't want to call them baggage, I want to call them like my support system, but my family is as impacted and fractured as I am. So is that
I get
something
it.
that you guys have thought about?
I mean, when we think about mental health, right, what we really want to do is to create an ecosystem. Because like you said, it's not something that can exist in a silo. We need to bring
Right.
everybody together, the nerds, the professionals, the family, the peers, the people who are actually struggling with it on a day-to-day basis. We need to bring everybody together, and it's a holistic ecosystem that needs to be there for us to really address mental health, because it's just so broad and it's just so widespread as well. But at the same time, I think there are definitely challenges to, doing it. It's easy to say it in like, 10 seconds, but executing it could take a long, long time. And so I think our aim has always been to bring people into the community, even those who are not directly impacted by it. And I think we've had more success, I would say, with youth within, I guess, give or take a few years in my age group, because I think they trust us a little bit more. We are more
Sure.
relatable to them,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And I think when we try to talk to parents to some extent, we're sort of like, the head nods and the yeah, I get it. But I also somewhere get this impression, and I might be completely wrong, that they somewhere don't take us so seriously because they look at our backgrounds. Do you have a degree in this? Have you practiced in this? Right? Versus somebody who's telling you, I have lived through this, right?
Right.
And that
Right.
journey in terms of credibility, especially in the older generation, has been something that we have been struggling with, which is why loan pack letters really help, right? Because it was a very simplified concept of mental health, which was just about, positivity and support to one another. So that was successful, but I don't think we've made as much progress as we would like, especially addressing, the parents and so on. But what we do hope is that when we're working exclusively with the youth, we are setting them up to be better parents in the future if they so decide they want to have kids, you know. And so,
Sure.
maybe that's how we get better at dealing with mental health as a society. We start those conversations, we encourage them to seek help, and we are better equipped to deal with it later on in our lives as well.
Sure, sure. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. In fact, there was one part of the question which got skipped, which I was hoping you could answer. So that is if I'm somebody who's seeking help, which I get. So if I am someone who wants to volunteer, how would somebody in Chennai or in any other city, how would they go about it? How would they approach LonePack? Because
Sure.
I already consider myself part of the LonePack family. I am the official LonePack PR person, guys. So in case you all haven't figured that out, I'm gonna be telling everyone because I think it is phenomenal, right? So could you tell because I have quite a few people who are going to watch this later on because I'm going to post this IGTV and there's been quite a bit of hype and I'm going to be sharing it. So how would somebody get involved as a volunteer?
Absolutely. So I think, firstly, we're always glad to see the LonePack family growing, and we always want more people on board. Yes. So in terms of how we take up more volunteers, there are two different ways in which that happens. The first is the LonePack team itself. So there we have like our content team, our social media team, people who put out our articles, our blog posts, all of that stuff. That's the core team. And the second set of volunteers are people who are trained as listeners for LonePack Buddy, which is a peer support system, right? So let me talk about the first one. So when we're looking at volunteers for, content, social media, etc. So anybody who's interested just, reaches out to us on social media or on our Instagram handles or sends us an email with, their background, the kind of work that they're interested in, the kind of commitment that they can make. Because we really need commitment if you need to be part of like the LonePack team in the long term. And so that's a great way for people to reach out to us. And then once they tell us what their interest areas are, we then move forward with a couple of assessments and interviews to just check fit and so on. And then you're part of the LonePack team and the LonePack family. The second thing, which is for if you're interested in becoming a listener or a volunteer for our app, which is the LonePack Buddy app, again, the process is the same. You reach out to us on social media or send us an email expressing your interest, and we send you the link to the online course that you need to complete. And so it is almost, I think, a 6 to 7 hour course that was designed in collaborations with professionals from our partner organization, which is the Minds Foundation. And so it's an online course, think like Coursera, etc. It's hosted similar to that. And so you have like videos, presentations, MCQs, assessments, etc. And then once you complete that course, we can then, get a sense of what's your understanding like, do you need more training or not? And then we can take it from there. So those are the two ways in which you can, directly, be part of the LonePack family. And you can always support us just, by sharing your simplest currency, which is just your time, which is following us on social media, sharing our stuff, forwarding it, helping us reach more people, right? Because that's the core of what we want to do, which is reach as many people as possible. So yeah,
No, absolutely.
just send us an email, follow us on social media, and we'll be happy to have you guys on board.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely put all the links and handles and stuff, and I'll make sure they're all available from my handle, your handle, and shared. But interestingly, there are schools like Madras School of Social Work, which I've been closely related to in terms of, there was a time, in fact, because I've had many midlife crises, and which I've talked about. But, at times when I thought, maybe I should, because I get a lot of people who reach out to me for help, but I can only share my story. You know what I'm saying? I'm actually a journeyman along with you. I'm not a counselor, but I did go and check out their resources at the Madras School of Social Work. I did check out, I know that MOP Vaishnav has psychology programs. There are a lot of schools in Chennai who do take these programs very seriously and actually have huge graduating classes looking for internships or volunteer experience and stuff like that. So would you guys be open to partnering with those universities and programs and, maybe having like official feeder pipelines with these schools so their students can come and be volunteers with the app? Would that be something that LonePack would be open to doing?
Absolutely. And, one of the things that we're looking at doing also is creating like a LonePack Buddy environment specific to like an organization or like an institution. So for example, if, Madras School of Social Work wanted to have like a localized LonePack Buddy, which is accessible to students of MSSW and is run by volunteers of MSSW, we could help facilitate that as well. And so on, similarly for high schools or, corporates, etc. So we can help sort of customize LonePack Buddy in that way for them as well. And even otherwise, we are more than happy to find organizations who believe in our vision as just as much as we do. And we would love to, look at ways for us to work together, right? Because like I said, our aim is to make it, a holistic ecosystem. There's no other way to tackle mental health. And the only way we make it a holistic mental health ecosystem is when we bring everybody to the table. Because mental health matters to everybody. There's not a single entity, group, or organization where mental health is irrelevant. And so, yes, would definitely love to make more partnerships.
That would be fantastic, because I think everybody's hiding under the proverbial carpet, and this carpet is going to eventually burst and make a mess all over the room. So I think that's important, but I do want to take a few comments and stuff before we close. But I wanted to just share the reason I was so personally impacted and wanted to have this conversation with you, and I hope this will be the first of many, is because it is so deep, and it is, you don't have to wait so long to get to a position of power. I know myself that if anybody asked me what I would have done differently, and I answered this on a forum the other day, I was actually speaking to the Hyundai core engineering team to boost company morale, and I'll be doing a series of workshops with them because I've had a lot of deaths due to COVID, and the whole lot of them are extremely, down. I mean, what else will you be with loss and grief? But for me, and when they said, what would I, because, when I tell my story in a very short period of time, it sounds like wins, but trust me, it's a lot more loss. It's a lot more protracted loss than just the wins put together in a very cut and edited format. But somebody asked me what I would do differently. And I think what I would do differently is maybe acknowledge the reality of what had hit me, as opposed to just swim and try to be fabulous. Because becoming a poster child for strength is the shiny aspect of it, but the suffering you end up doing alone. And, as much as I told myself, I can't say, oh, I'm not blind, because I am 75% blind. Like, that is the truth. So I need to be able to say that out loud, put it on a piece of paper or tell somebody, or even end up at the Wharton school. So it would be great to have somebody else say, hey, Anjali, I know what this feels like, but one day you're going to be great. Maybe I know for a fact that on several levels I got lucky, because I have parents I have a dad who told me that, and he and I went to the hospital together, and I know that somebody like him too may need to be supported, but may never actually come out and say so. But it's not my story to tell, and it's not my place to say. I can only speak about myself, which is why I brought up families as being extremely important, because sometimes they're not in a position to say I'm hurting because they're so busy supporting the kid who supposedly isn't studying, but isn't actually not studying, but is actually suffering from a mental health problem. But that may be something for episode 2, where hopefully I will get you back to maybe dig a little bit deeper into the kind of issues, because, I think a lot of people on the comments have been agreeing with some of the things you and I have been saying, and saying that we've been spot on. So I will wrap up with Sunil's question of where are you guys with LGBTQIA, and is that, because that is definitely a community that needs a lot of support, and definitely, I mean, mental health is definitely, I mean, they're so disadvantaged in so many ways. So I mean, where is LonePack with that? Do you support that community specifically? Do you plan to partner? Is that something you'd be open to? Could you share a few thoughts on that? That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think LonePack as an organization would definitely like to consider ourselves, partners and allies of the LGBTQ plus community, and, a partner and ally through good times and bad, not just for Pride Month, That's something that's important to us, to support them, every time, or every single, time they need help, to show up, to stand up for them, to support them, to advocate for them as well. To amplify their voices when needed. But I think in terms of, where exactly we have, reached in terms of tangible impact, is that when we do LonePack Buddy, our volunteer training, there is an element of, non-judgmental, supportive acceptance and empathetic listening. which is very critical when someone is talking about, things like gender and sexuality in an anonymous forum, right? So we do have elements of that in our training for the LonePack Buddy volunteers. But what we are also looking to do is to partner with organizations who have been working in this space to create a more specialized, sort of a deep dive, like an advanced level on specifically what are ways we can better deal with this, better be of support, be of help to the community. So that I think is one very clear, tangible thing that we are planning to work on in the next few months. But I think what we have been doing so far is we share a lot of stories of people who talk about their personal experiences with mental health, from the perspective of a member of the LGBTQ plus community. So that's really, something that was received quite well for people to talk about their stories of acceptance and, struggling to come out to their families and so on. Apart from that, we have a lot of our content which talks about, the historical milestones that the LGBTQ plus community has had over the past few years, sort of amplifying the voices of the activists who've been and organizations who've been doing such great work in this field for like so many years. So I don't think, we're leading the fight in this particular space, but I would definitely like to think we are quietly supporting them in the background, being their allies, being their advocates, and hopefully we can continue, increasing and building that, as time goes by.
I definitely see a lot of simpatico and a lot of synergy between what LonePack is doing and what, say, somebody like Sunil is doing with Sahodran, given that the several years of experience that he has. So I have a beautiful comment from somebody whose handle is called Black is my BAE, who has gone ahead and said, would I be able to contribute part-time? We already have somebody with a request. Like, this is what makes Instagram Live successful. I love you guys for being here. I love the comments. There's somebody called Dibby who already is fabulous in my eyes because she says that colleges do tick off counseling as a tick box. I do agree. I haven't been to college here in India myself anytime recently, at least. So I did go to school here, but that was a while ago. But yeah, would somebody like this gentleman is asking, I think it's a guy, so I'm not going to assume, actually it could be a girl, it could be anybody. So would they be able to contribute part-time? Is that something that they could do?
Absolutely. So they can totally contribute part-time. In fact, I think they can only contribute part-time because we can't afford to pay salaries yet. We are not a funded organization. So unless you have free time to spare, on a full-time basis, it's a different case. But every single person on our team currently works with us part-time. They volunteer with us part-time. And so, yes, a couple of hours a day, a few hours a week, that's all you need. And like I said, passion for mental health and commitment to the cause.
Yes, and a fabulous question from my dear friend and guest from a week ago, Dr. Sharmata. She's a not just my classmate, schoolmate, but is a fantastic doctor, dermatologist, and esthetician. She says, have you considered live participation for those who don't have access to Androids?
Oh, absolutely. So, in fact, LonePack Buddy is available as a web application. So you just go onto your browser and just Google LonePack Buddy, and you will be able to, do all of the things that you would otherwise sign up, have a conversation, talk to anybody anonymously. So that is completely accessible. Just to make that experience more seamless is that we launched the Android app over the last year or so. So the application itself, the service, LonePack Buddy as a service, is accessible through your browser, even if you don't have an Android. So your desktop, your Apple phones, all of that will work for you. We are working on the iOS app. Like I said, time is a challenge when you're self-funded and volunteer run. So that is something that we are working on and will hopefully have out soon. But in the meanwhile, please feel free to use the web application itself. You'll have links on our website. You can just Google LonePack Buddy and it will pop right up.
Fabulous. And you know what? Your funding answer was actually now answered by Black is my BAE, who says, totally fine with the non-pay. Hey. Thank you for answering. Thank you for answering. And that is exactly the kind of energy we need. Black is my BAE. I don't know who you are, but I appreciate your comments. And what keeps me energetic is having people like Samiya in my life. And we hope to make wonderful memories together and do amazing things with LonePack. We will probably go global. I mean, ambition, you're not alone in ambition. Samiya, we're all with you here. So Siddharth says, and this is our co-loan packer. So he's been watching very carefully and giving me thumbs up on my questions. So yes, I did prepare, sir. I knew I would have a very heavy guest with me. So I did my homework. So we have everyone giving us a lot of love, but we do have to close. Any last questions? Any last comments? Samiya, I'm going to hit you up for an episode 2. There's no question. There's no question of not having. I think this is a great opportunity for people to, participate. I don't know, maybe we can do an Instagram room or something. Thank you, Sharmita, for joining. Let me tell you something about Sharmita. She and I talked about identity and how a lot of people come to her for aesthetic changes, which are on the one hand possible and many times not possible. So, we have a lot of stigma on, and it is very mental health related. So perhaps we can do something with her as well. This whole thing about being whiter than you are. And I think my grandmother said, I think my grandmother compared me and my brother when we were young. He was like fair when he was a kid. I don't know what happened after that. So I think I'm like lighter than him. Not like my family gives a shit about it, but everybody outside is very concerned with skin color. No, skin color is a big deal. And Sharmita and I had a great time talking about it and kind of unboxing how that connects back to mental health. Everything is mental health. So thank you, Samiya, for joining me. And LonePack, I mean, more power to you guys. I hope you grow, and I know you will grow from strength to strength, because now you have me, and Black is my BAE in their family. And we've got Dr. Sharmita and Sunil on board, and hopefully more people will see the live and get involved. Okay, so I'm going to love you and leave you guys. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Bye.